Hi, welcome to BEH 221, Resolution-Based Counseling Skills. Today we're going to discuss the concept of focusing the interview. So, what is focusing? Focusing is a skill that enables multiple tellings of the story, and this will help you and the clients think of new possibilities for change. Client issues are often more complex than they seem, but clients often look at them from only one frame of reference, or perspective. Perspective includes the client's past experiences, cultural biases, fears, or denial, further contribute to this narrowing view. Focusing can help clients clarify their issues, engage in more holistic restorying, and find more satisfying decisions and actions. Focusing also encourages you, the interviewer or counselor, to think about alternative frames of reference, broader systems, and cultural issues that might affect the client. So, oftentimes, when you're working with a client, you're dealing with somebody who has literally a one-track mind. They tell the story, and in their mind, they're the victim, or they're the one who was treated unfairly, and you have to, as the counselor, try to help see the situation from multiple perspectives. That is a very hard thing to do, but once you open them up to different perceptions of how they were treated or how they acted, then they can see it from more than one point of view. So, focusing is an important skill that enables clients to gain a more complex understanding of issues affecting their lives. Focusing enables clients to understand the web of relationships in which they live and the cultural and environmental context surrounding their behavior. When you use the focusing skill, you deliberately attend to broader dimensions to ensure that the client is able to resolve issues in the context in which they live. So let's talk about this term, web of relationships. We need to understand the individual's cognitions and emotions. However, that individual comes to us with a social and cultural history. We exist in a web of relationships with multiple dimensions of personal identity. The family, a close relationship, friends, and important others, including many significant people ranging from teachers to employers, sports coaches, to scoutmasters, biking groups, to book clubs. Every person that I've mentioned creates a line of a relationship, and when you put them all together, you see a web. You see almost like a spider web. Each person in the web is affected in some way by the respectful model. For example, differences in gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic class, and ethnicity or race make our life full of difference. So, whether or not you are a girl and somebody else is a boy, that's going to define some of the differences between you. If your best friend is gay and you are heterosexual, that will define the differences between you. Moreover, what is the historical moment that surrounds the web of relationships? The Great Economic Recession of 2008 is a recent example. People living 25 years ago could count on finding satisfactory employment and a living wage. Automation has eliminated millions of jobs. Increasing income disparity, political conflict, war, and decisions of state and Supreme Courts massively affect the individual and the web of relationships. So, the era in which we live in, this chronological context is very important, because the people who lived, for example, in the 50s, who fought for the civil rights that were eventually granted by law in 1964, they had a different experience than the people who were marching this year or in the last couple years for racial equality, for Black Lives Matter, for the fact that there are a lot of issues in this country and in a lot of other countries that are specific to a time period. So, when we think about civil rights movements, we also think about the March for Gay Rights, the March for Women's Rights, the March for Moms' Rights. Then if you go back a little bit, keep in mind that during Vietnam, you could go to war at 18, but you couldn't vote till you were 21. And that's in large part what happened when the hippies, so to speak, started fighting and saying, no, we're not going to war. I can't vote, so I'm not going to pick up a gun and kill people. Focusing will enable you to develop a more comprehensive view of clients' web of relationships, their background, their present situation, and the influences on their current issues. Furthermore, if we encourage clients to discuss aspects of their respectful background, we learn much about the cultural, environmental context, thus developing an understanding of the multiple voices that the client brings to us. One rule helps us start working with clients. It is best when the interview empowers clients to resolve their own issues. So, in a sense, you're coaching them to figure out their strengths, and these strengths will help them solve their own issues. Selective attention, which we covered about 3-4 weeks ago, is basic to focusing. Clients tend to talk about and focus on topics to which you give your primary attention. Through your attending skills, i.e. visuals, vocal tone, verbal following, and body language, you indicate to your client that you are listening. When we all tend to focus or listen in different ways, it is important to be aware of both your conscious and unconscious patterns of selective attention. Clients sometimes follow your lead rather than talk about what they really want to say. So it's important that, as part of the skill set with focusing, that you really use that selective attention that we've talked about, and the body language and the nonverbal indicators that we're listening and that we're part of this experience. It is sometimes tempting to first draw out the specific reasons clients come to us. Then sometimes the client's individuality is lost, unless we personalize the session by integrating that word you and the client's name. The following are some examples of how you can help the client focus more clearly on the issue that he or she considers most important at the moment. And we're going to call our client Vanessa. Vanessa, I hear a lot of issues. Which would you like to focus on first? Vanessa, listening to you, I sense that a lot of things are happening, but you sound like your worries about your mother and challenges with your sister may be the most important. Would you like to start there? Or, could you tell me a story about how you think all this developed in the first place? The point is that you personalize it. You focus on them, and that helps you basically direct the client in the right directions. We need to also encourage understanding of the web of relationships and the impact of cultural environmental issues on daily living. Several important concepts have surfaced to help expand the idea of the individual self. The term self in relation defines the individual self as really only existing in relationship to others. The term being in relation, suggested by feminist authors, is similar to self in relation, but points out that all of us are beings who grow in the here and now moment as we interact with others. The person as a community was stressed from an Afrocentric frame by Obanaya, who points out that our family and community history live within each of us. Then we hit persons in community. If you help clients to see themselves and their issues as persons in community, they can learn new ways of thinking about themselves and using existing support systems more effectively. It is not the individual versus the social context. Rather, social context enriches our understanding and enhances the uniqueness of each person and client. Clients come to the interview with many internalized voices affecting cognition and emotion. Bringing these to awareness through focusing is a vital but often missing part of counseling and therapy. So, first of all, let's talk about the first bullet, which is persons in the community. Counselors cannot help an individual without looking at their web of relationships, the people that surround them, the social context in which they live. Additionally, this concept of internalized voices doesn't mean that somebody is listening to God speaking to them or the devil speaking to them. This is more in the concept of that voice in our head that tells us that we're not good enough, or we're not pretty enough, or we're not smart enough. And these voices that affect how we feel about ourselves also give rise to things like being able to achieve because people believe you can achieve, so you begin to believe it. Again, you're dealing with a lot of variables because when you're talking about humans, there's a variety of emotional experiences that we can experience in 1 minute. So over the course of a lifetime, there's a very complicated recipe that created us. So 2 major issues where focusing can be helpful are the difficult matter of abortion and the totally different area of social justice advocacy. As a counseling issue, the first, abortion, is very much a personal issue, but is affected deeply by the cultural and environmental context. So, up until 1971, abortions were illegal, and if a young woman became pregnant and could not have the child for whatever reason, oftentimes that meant going to a quack doctor who would terminate the pregnancy, but also probably cause infections and all kinds of problems. So 1971, Supreme Court legalizes abortion. But in the 50 years or so since that happened, this has been an ongoing discussion because people are firmly entrenched in this idea that you're either pro-life or pro-choice. The second is an area that some in the helping fields believe is not their responsibility. That social justice advocacy. And that's the other issue, is that when you're in the helping fields, especially social work, you have a caseload that is gargantuan. And it can be very difficult to look at the bigger picture, the social justice piece, while you're immersed in individual experiences of trying to help individuals. So take some time to think about your own thoughts on a difficult and challenging issue, abortion, the termination of a fetus. This remains a central issue in what we call the culture wars. As an interviewer, counselor, or psychotherapist, you will encounter controversial cases and work with clients who have made different decisions than you would. As a counselor, it is vital that you understand the situations, thoughts, and feelings of those who take varying positions around controversial issues, whether you agree with them or not. So, let's say that you are pro-life and you do not believe in abortion. You have a client who comes to you, and part of their many issues is that they had an abortion and they feel bad. Well, you are not being given an open forum to push your philosophy or your thoughts. You are there to help your clients solve their problems, to find their strengths, to look at the situation from every perspective. And that can be a big challenge for people, especially when they feel strongly about something. So what do you do if your values don't match the client's values? Can you identify and understand some of the thoughts and feelings of those who have a different position from your own? Counseling is not about teaching clients how to live or what to believe. It is helping clients make their own decisions regardless of your personal position. You may find yourself unconsciously using the interview to further your own beliefs. The art of competent interviewing and counseling merge awareness and respect in the interest of client self-discovery, autonomy, and growth. So let's move on to social justice. This is a moral orientation toward a just and fair world. It is a value stance that emphasizes human rights and equality. Interviewing and counseling constantly involve moral issues, values, and social justice. The respectful diversity model is applied to the web of relationships, makes it clear that we cannot avoid these issues in most interviews. In the individual counseling session, you have the opportunity to help clients become aware of how social justice and cultural and environmental contextual issues affect their lives as persons in community. So if you are working with someone who is Hispanic and they are worried that some of their family members who are in the country illegally are going to be removed, we're tying right into the arguments about immigration and DACA and why it's so easy for someone with money to get a green card, but not so easy for somebody without money. A depressed client learns that he or she is not totally at fault for their depression and discovers that family and contextual factors can be addressed, thus externalizing blame as part of preparing the client to return to life with new meanings and purposes. Discovering oneself as a person in community broadens perspective and presents new promise for the future. You're going to face situations in which your best counseling efforts are insufficient to help clients resolve their issues and move on with their lives. That's just the reality of it. Some people just can't get past their issues. So the social context of homelessness, poverty, racism, sexism, and other societal issues may leave clients in an impossible situation. The challenge may be bullying on the playground, an unfair teacher, or an employer who refuses to follow fair employment practices. It is critical that we examine the societal stressors that our clients may face. Traditional approaches to interviewing and counseling may not be enough. Advocacy is speaking out for your clients, working in the school, community, or larger setting to help clients, and also working for social change. What are you going to do on a daily basis to help improve the systems within which your clients live? And of course, you change them the best from working from within. There is also the component of working from outside, marching, donating money, participating in rallies, participating in actions that will help your clients. And all of these things come together to help you help your clients. Here are some examples of situations in which simply talking with clients about their issues may not be enough. You are a high school counselor and work with a 10th grader who is teased and harassed about being gay, while the classroom teacher quietly watches and says nothing. As a personnel officer, you discover systematic bias against promotion of women and minorities. And then finally, working in a community agency, you have a client who speaks of abuse in the home, but fears leaving because she sees no future financial support. The issues that we just discussed, all three of these, need intervention. They need somebody to say, you can't do that, or you will lose everything if you don't leave because he's going to kill you. So when we are looking at these advocacy for social justice, It's on a macro or global level and a micro level, which is that one person that we can help. One course of action might be for the counselor to work with school officials to set up policies around bullying and harassment, actively changing the environment that allowed bullying to occur. Whistleblowers who name unethical or illegal situations that others prefer to avoid can face real difficulty. They will need your support and advice on how to proceed. So, whistleblower working at a company and they blow the whistle on something the company is doing or somebody in the company is doing that is illegal. And oftentimes that whistleblower is going to be ostracized, alienated, maybe even harassed, and then again, you need to be able to support them. The counselor in the community agency knows that advocacy is the only possibility when abuse is apparent. For these clients, advocacy in terms of support in getting out of the home, finding new housing, and learning how to set up a restraining order may be far more important than self-examination and understanding. Counselors who care about their clients also become their advocates when necessary. Counseling, social work, and human relations are inherently social justice professions, but speaking out for social concerns also needs our time and attention. And there is always going to be some clients that you have to help them because they just don't know, and they've been beaten down so much by their issues that they are literally paralyzed with fear. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, please contact your instructor. If you are not in one of our classes, please leave us a comment and we will respond as soon as we can. Thank you and have a fabulous day.